Hello and welcome to Exploited Crimes and Technology. My name is Opal Singleton and we come to you every Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock right here on AM 590, The Answer. For the last several weeks, I've been talking about the crime of sextortion. This show is brought to you by an organization called Million Kids, millionkids.org. And we combat all kinds of crime, things like human trafficking, sextortion, social media exploitation, and yes, even online child pornography. And so as we do that, one of the things that I often talk about, and I have done a massive amount of research on, is the impact of technology on crimes, especially crimes that are online. And I want to talk to you a little more about that today, because a long time ago, actually, now it's hard to believe it's been so long, but my first book was called Seduced the Grooming of America's Teenagers. And this book still holds true today, even though it was printed quite a long time ago. What inspired me to write the book Seduced, the Grooming of America's Teenagers, is that in the mid, say, 2015, 2017, 18, we were having a lot of people that were going online and falling in love with the wrong people, or they would meet someone like at the mall or at school and fall in love, and they would be easily manipulated. And in some cases, they were manipulated into situations that involve sex trafficking or sending nudes. And I was thinking about that today because I have done a huge amount of work of late related to the crime of sextortion. And the crime of sextortion, it can be anybody can be a victim. Your 80-year-old grandpa can be a victim of that kind of thing. And it's such an important subject to me because it is all changing dramatically right now because of artificial intelligence. So let me back up a little bit about the theory behind the book, Seduce the Grooming of America's Teenagers. The whole idea there is a lot of people would think that a person would end up in prostitution or sex trafficking as a victim once they got involved in prostitution. They would maybe be kidnapped or forced into it somehow. And that can happen. You see a lot of movies about that now, like the one that was just filmed in South America about human trafficking. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it was the famous one that happened. And in those cases, it was filmed in Colombia. And in those cases, poor people's kids were kidnapped and then forced into sex trafficking. The Sound of Freedom is the name of the movie. It finally came to me. Thank you. Anyway, I must be slowing down here. But anyway, in those cases, the child is kidnapped. But that is almost never the way that it happens. Usually it starts as a fantasy relationship. And a lot of this is taking place because our kids are making their relationships online. And that just, the idea of online and fantasy, we're just getting started and really understanding the depth of it. And it's going to become more and more important to understand it as technology is changing. So what would normally happen is somebody would meet somebody online. Let's say she's a 14-year-old girl and she thinks he's a 16-year-old guy, and they begin to go back and forth. Now, if this was a real live relationship, you get the reality of what's going on. Suddenly, he has acne, or he uses the F word all the time, or he doesn't bathe well, and he dresses funny. And you can see things about a relationship that you're factoring in on whether or not you want to go forward with the relationship. But an online relationship is a lot different, because you can pretend to be anybody you want to be. And it is that fantasy that develops within a young person and sometimes an older person that you want what you want. And so you ignore all the warning signs. And this is particularly easy to do on a dating site because you really don't want the reality. You want to live in that fantasy world. But there's a cost that goes with that. Because if you're interacting with a live person, they can heavily influence you. And literally what has happened is an entire industry has come together, has grown up out of this idea of feeding you your fantasy and then using that to extort from you. We see it with your, 50-year-old divorced grandmother or your 65-year-old widowed grandfather or, your 14-year-old child or maybe you. It's real easy to not to want to deal with reality. And that's exactly what will often happen on some of these dating sites. You hear about romance scams. And what is happening is, the person is older, they're lonely, and someone on the other end of the line pretends to be everything that this person is looking for. And they sort out what you're looking for. They read your posts. They look at what is happening. They pretend to be somebody they're not. And the person on the end thinks that they have met the love of their life. And that can happen whether you're 14 or 84. Because of the fact, especially going online, it takes away the reality of it. So fantasy relationships are really not based on reality. If you're dating, let's say you're a guy that's dating a girl, and maybe she has a kid or two. She's got to take them off to the soccer game. They got to take the dog to the vet. There are bills to be paid. There are arguments that go on at work, or the boss doesn't like you, or maybe you're struggling with weight and you don't look as cute as you once did. As long as you're only online, those factors don't have to be addressed. And it gives you the opportunity to live in that unreal environment that makes you feel good. So oftentimes we project our desires online, and that gives those people on the other side, whoever they are, the ability to be able to say, okay, this is how I manipulate this person. Fantasy relationships are not sustainable in a healthy way, but they do provide a temporary escape from reality. Well, who wouldn't want that? We all want to escape from reality. I do that all the time. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's what makes the game of free cell so easy on there, or solitaire, or all the other games that kids play. It is an escape from reality. And there is some room for that. But if you're involved in a relationship that is based on an escape from reality with somebody you have not met, pleasing you and making you happy, I am going to tell you that you have entered a world that is extremely risky. And if they start blackmailing you or seducing you, equally as serious in how that works, seducing you into sending photos, sending money, exchanging things that can be used about you, giving away a lot of personal information so that people can learn to manipulate you. Every one of those things will tell you that you're not dealing with reality, that you're wanting to live in a fantasy. And living in a fantasy can be extremely expensive. I've done a massive amount of research on romance scams, and it is amazing to me the number of very intelligent, rational, solid people that fall in love online and they cannot give up that fantasy. And it's starting to cost them. It costs them their time. It costs them existing relationships. And it also can cost them money as it results in a romance scam where you're being blackmailed for money. Why am I telling you all this? What is happening here is it's very important to understand what is happening in the world of blackmailers. And who are those people and where are they at? And why are they doing this? And why is this increasing in the magnitude of what they're asking and the seriousness of the crime? And what is happening in where they're at and why they're aggressive in harming our lives and taking some of our freedoms. My name is Opal Singleton. This show is called Exploited, Crimes and Technology. We're coming up against break time. Going to ask you to stay with us. We're going to be right back. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited, Crimes and Technology. Hey, let me tell you about my favorite restaurant in Riverside, Monarch Asian Bistro. The atmosphere and decor are simply stunning. The service is great, too. It's a wonderful environment for a romantic dinner or a family get-together. It's not just another Chinese restaurant. The Monarch Asian Bistro is upscale, and it serves Thai food, as well as unique Asian-inspired dishes that are just fabulous. My favorite is the pad see ew beef. My husband likes the orange chicken, and the Chinese chicken salad is always great. Our friends sometimes order the Emperor's Choice or Monarch steak. It is my favorite go-to place. Go ahead and give it a try. It's Monarch Bistro in Riverside, Canyon Crest Town Center next to Ralph's. They are open for lunch and dinner every day but Tuesday. Go ahead, give it a try. You're going to love it.
Real estate sales in the Inland Empire are really hot. Sean and Colleen at Caldwell Banker Armstrong Properties in Riverside are proud to sponsor this show. They are the best in the Inland Empire. They're fair, honest, creative, and they care about you and your situation. If you're in the market to buy or sell a home, call Sean and Colleen at 951-529-4066.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of MillionKids.org. I believe the four most powerful words on earth are I believe in you. So we created a challenge coin that says, I believe in you on one side and stand tall, you are loved on the other side. This one-of-a-kind challenge coin is a perfect gift for birthdays, anniversaries, graduation, Christmas presents, or just an anytime gift for someone you love. What a powerful message for a parent or a grandparent to give to a young person. This 2-inch coin is made of polished gold. It's striking to look at, and it is priceless to hold. It is packaged in a beautiful black velvet gift box. What a great way to leave a legacy of love that will last forever. To purchase this coin, go to millionkids.org/gallery. Each coin is $25. Go to millionkids.org/gallery to purchase and give a legacy of love.
AM 590, The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. We're talking about fantasy relationships and how they can end in things like blackmail and sextortion, especially if you're online. So when I wrote the initial book, Seduced the Grooming of America's Teenagers, I was mainly thinking of the 13-year-old girl who goes somewhere, falls in love with a guy, goes online, falls in love. He turns out to be a pimp. He tells her everything she wants to hear. She becomes emotionally dependent on him. He begins to manipulate her. And the next thing you know, he will literally groom her to get into a life of sex trafficking. And that's exactly how it happens. I have interviewed hundreds of people who have been that route and would have said at the time, this could never happen to me. So why is this so important that I use this radio time to share with you? Because I want you to understand how all of this is changing. I look back now to the writing of the book of Seduced, and it seems so simple. At that point, it was a pimp or a gang member that would seduce a young girl. But this is reaching outrageous levels, and this is the reason why I want to be able to have a lot of you to understand. And it isn't just enough to understand. I hope that you will appreciate what is going on and share it with others, especially if you're a parent or a grandparent. So what has happened here is that the internet, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, post-COVID, has changed dramatically. I don't know if you realize all that's gone on in the last 24 to 36 months related to technology. But I do because I research it, and it's enough to make your head spin. Literally, the first thing that happened, that changed everything last year was, for the first time in history, the entire world was connected by internet. Now, it's easy to say that. It's harder for you to understand what that means in reality for you and your child and your grandchild. So what is happening now is that countries that are very poor, that are often controlled by criminal enterprises, and we call them TCOs, transnational criminal enterprises. These are cartels in places like Nigeria and Ivory Coast and Mexico and Belize and Philippines and Pakistan. These people now have high-speed 5G, high-speed internet, and it's coming right into your living room. So yes, we have borders. We all know what's going on at our border and how challenging that is. And it scares us to death when we see who and how many people are crossing our borders. But every day, forget all that, every day, all around the world now, poor people that are being controlled by organized crime that have 5G high-speed internet can come right into your child's bedroom, can literally be with your child as they're at school if they're on their phone, because they can reach your child. My second book was called Societal Shift, A World Without Borders, A Home Without Walls. And this whole thing is about the fact that you no longer have a home with walls. As long as your child is walking around with a device, regardless of their age, your home no longer has walls. Your child is reachable by any one of those criminal organizations. By the way, so is your father and your grandfather, especially if they're on the dating sites. So we have high-speed internet that is connected so that literally people can access your child at a heartbeat. And so we have to start to learn to bulletproof our kids before we put them online. Technology is not good or bad, but I believe technology is an adult device. Because if you're going to put your child on there, they better have the intelligence and the cognitive reasoning and the ability to understand who they're talking to and what can happen if it goes wrong. Because literally, as it's accelerating in literally transition, we're having a technology transformation. As this is happening, our lives are changing at the speed of light. Now, almost every one of those devices have some sort of money transfer on them. Your child knows how to pay off a blackmailer a whole lot better than you do because they were the first ones to get Bitcoin. They understand Zelle and all the other ways that you can pay. On top of it, almost all devices now have geolocation software on them, especially your dating devices. If any of you are on some dating devices, it can tell you, and your chat devices, okay, Whisper, Tinder, what was the new one I saw? Scruff was the newest one. And they will say, this person's only 5 miles away. Just imagine if that's your 12-year-old son who wants to explore his sexuality. And now he's being connected to people only 5 miles away who would like to mentor him. So all of those things are possibilities. And now we're about to get artificial intelligence. And this is why it is so important that you get educated, because with artificial intelligence, not one of us is going to be safe. They can take our photos, modify it, and start blackmailing you for money. So this is exactly what I'm talking about, is so many people go online for the fun of it. They're just looking to play around. And the next thing you know, they've found themselves in a fantasy relationship. And one of the things we need to start to talk to our kids about is who is out there and how can you tell if you're talking to a good person or a bad person? And how do you keep yourself and your little brothers and sisters safe online? And as a family, this needs to be a regular discussion because all of this has changed, especially in the last 6 months, 6 to 9 months. Because what we're seeing now is a whole lot of telemarketing centers in foreign countries that are being set up by organized crime that are literally targeting your elderly, targeting you, and targeting your children. And so we need to talk about who these people are and how are you going to tell. Of late, I have seen all kinds of articles in my research about how telemarketing centers, for instance, in Mexico, are setting up to sell timeshare scams to the elderly. And it isn't voluntary. There were 8 kids that were killed last year in a telemarketing center because they wanted to quit. This also happens with organized crime out of Nigeria. And so what is happening is that the kids are poor and they're brought in and they don't get an alternative either. And these telemarketing centers, they're now understanding, are global enterprises. And we in the U.S. are the targets of that. So we really got to teach grandma to quit responding to spam. Okay, we really got to teach grandma, if she's going to be online, what artificial intelligence is and how somebody can pretend to be looking out for your best interests but harm you. We really need to teach anybody that's on an online dating site that can be very effective, but you better know what you're doing if you're going to do this, because it is an open playground for a fantasy relationship. Again, it doesn't matter how old we are. We all want what we want. I'm no different than you. I want to be young, thin, and cute, okay? But it isn't going to happen that way. But if you follow Facebook, they will give you lots of alternatives to solve your problem immediately, okay? I signed up for a couple of them. Don't do that, okay? I'm getting to where I'm off of all of those ads that are out there. But this is really important that we understand the power of the fantasy relationship on an online device where you cannot understand who you're talking to. The first sign that you're talking to a bad guy is they will move you. They will move you from one app to another. The second sign is they'll tell you not to tell. And if they start sending photos, one of the dialogues that I really want to have with anybody out there that is considering sending a photo online that is a compromised photo is that if someone you have not met is asking you to send a photo, they are not your friend, because once it's gone, it's gone. And you might pay a whole lot of money to get it back, or you might pay with your reputation and pay with your emotions, but it will be very costly. Major flag. They want your photo. Run, baby, run. It is not who you think it is. This is Opal Singleton, and it's break time. We're going to be right back.
Societal Shift, A World Without Borders and a Home Without Walls. This is the most important book you will read this year, especially if you have children or grandchildren. We are living at the most important time in all of history. In 2020, the entire world will be connected by internet, more than 6 billion people coming together. Technology will provide many great advantages for our kids, but a world without borders for our kids is also a world without borders for pimps, predators, pedophiles, cartels, and organized crime. It is a home without walls because 87% of the kids sleep with their phone. It is the greatest societal experiment of all time. Our kids are technology geniuses, and their parents are technophobic. Some are techno-impotent. New apps come with no warnings on how a predator will use them against our kids. Advancing technologies like encrypted messaging, vaporware, artificial intelligence, cryptocurrency, and the dark net will challenge law enforcement, teachers, and parents to keep kids safe. Recent research states that 9,000 kids a day are being blackmailed with a naked photo, and 58% will meet their predator. It is indeed a societal shift, and one in which most parents are unprepared. If you are a parent or grandparent, teacher, counselor, or social worker, please take time to read Societal Shift. Only $18.99 plus $6 shipping. Order today at millionkids.org. That's millionkids, millionkids.org. It'll be the greatest gift you can give your family and yourself. Order Societal Shift today. Million Kids takes checks and credit cards. Opal Singleton, the author, will personally sign the book and send it to you. Again, go to millionkids.org and order Societal Shift today. Join Million Kids. Keep our kids safe from predators.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. This is Opal Singleton, and we're talking about one of my most passionate subjects, and that is the subject of blackmail online, sex extortion. It's a combination of the word sex and extortion. And I'm especially concerned about it for our kids. We're in the process of creating a series of videos that are very short to answer these questions about, somebody sending me a nude, what do I do? Somebody wants me to send a nude, what do I do? So it's an interesting thing how quickly and easily our young people, are willing to send a photograph of their nude body. I have often been mesmerized by that whole process. It's a completely different era. Now, these are kids who grew up in the world of selfies. I get that. And they're also kids who grew up in a world where there isn't much left to see online, on a movie, and on television. All of it is out there at any given time. But one of the things that I do think is important is to sit and talk with our children about, why does somebody want a nude? How dangerous is it if I send it? What's the best case? What's the worst case that can happen? And by the way, who are these people really that are asking for your nude? And it's important because literally 1 out of 5 kids will tell you that they've sent nudes to adults they've never met. And that is it just terrifies me right down to the bone, because I see where this goes wrong. And it's changed a lot in the last 12 to 15, maybe 18 months, okay? Because it's not like it used to be. It used to be, okay, you'd send a nude and it was a pedophile that maybe was sharing the photo with others. And you could never get it back, and they might blackmail you for more photos and like that. But our society, I think, did not take that serious enough at the time, because they're not able to realize the long-term effect on that. So we have progressed substantially about who is the predator out there and what is happening. And how dangerous is this to your family? It used to be that a kid would come to you and say, I've sent a nude, and the cops would say, well, what the heck were you thinking? And they blame the kid, and they would leave it at that. Don't do that again. We can't do that anymore. If a nude has been sent, there is a very large chance that the family could be in danger and that the kid could be blackmailed to the point of taking their own life, because this has accelerated a lot. One of the things that we have learned, there's a case out of Bakersfield. Her name was Patricia Alatorre. In this case, what happened is she was 13, cute as a bug, that little girl. And she met a guy who was 23. He was from Inglewood, and she was from Bakersfield, and they exchanged nudes. And then he came up, and she actually snuck out and met up with him. So one of the first conversations you need to have with a child before you ever give them any kind of device And by the way, I don't recommend giving anybody a device until they go through puberty because they don't have the capacity to understand who the pedophile is. That's just my line of thinking. I can tell you right now that the horse has already left that barn. Everywhere I go, I see little kids with devices. And I think to myself, you can't tell if you're playing on a little kid's device or playing on the World Wide Web where some pedophile wants to play games with your child. That's what I mean by a home without walls. So one of the first things you need to do before you give your child a device is sit down with them and say, you have to promise me in writing, we're going to have a contract. I highly recommend contracts between parents and kids that you will never, ever go out and meet up with someone you meet online. I cannot tell you the number of cases I've been involved in where a perfectly fine, intelligent child who's entered in a fantasy relationship, and yes, kids have the same fantasies you do, and they enter in that relationship, they sneak out of their bed in the middle of the night, or they sneak off from school. And in the case of Patricia Alatorre, she actually put her clothes underneath her bedspread and snuck out because she wanted to meet up with this guy. She was later heard screaming about 3 a.m, and they later found her nude body that had been violated. And she isn't the only one. I probably could give you 30 or 40 cases like that. So the first dialogue is that you never ever send that photo because it's a compromise. And you never go out and meet up with someone that you met online because it never ends well. We had a case right here in Riverside, and they're a lovely family, and they're beautiful people. It was called the Wyneck family. And in that case, as this girl was involved in sending and exchanging, I don't know what she sent, quite frankly, so I want to retract that she was in a fantasy relationship by what she thought was a 17-year-old boy. In fact, he was a 28-year-old cop. He was a crooked cop from back east. And in the end, her grandmother, her grandfather, and her mother were murdered and their house set on fire, and she was kidnapped. My point here is nobody would have ever been able to realize, even a couple, 3 years ago, how scary it is when our kids go out with a fantasy relationship and they get involved. Now, not all of them end that way. Some of them end with somebody wanting more money and a lot more money. And that's exactly what is happening in many of these cases at this time. So think about it and have that conversation with your child that they'll never go out and that they understand the danger of sending a nude. It isn't who you think it is. Most of the time, one of the things that I often share with kids is if someone you're talking to online wants your nude, they are not your friend. It's that simple. I want you to realize that as cute as they sound, as sexy as they are, it's probably some kid in a telemarketing company in Nigeria, or maybe Mexico, or maybe Belize, and your life is about to take a very serious turn. The minute a photo goes online, your life has changed forever because you will never know where that went, and you will never have the ability to get it back. And it's like loading somebody else's ammunition into somebody else's gun because they now have the power over you that they did not have until you sent it. It might go out into a worldwide child pornography ring. I saw one ring that had over 1 million paid subscribers. And literally, if you connect with someone that's part of that ring, your photo can go to 1 million people in less than 30 seconds. And you will never, ever be able to get it back. And the other thing that happens is that leaves you wide open for them to come back and blackmail you. So I want you to realize what happens when you send a photo. Number one, you can't get it back. Number two, you have given up your power. And number three is you have no control over where that photo is going to go. Is it the cute little honey you thought it was? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But once they have it, you don't know if they're going to share it with 15 other people. And now they want $5,000 or they're going to change your life. The other thing I hope that you'll do is talk with your kids and say, I hope you never do that. But if you do, I hope you will trust me enough that you will come and share it with me. And don't let them push you over the edge, because they will try to do it. A photo that is out there is literally an opportunity to destroy not only your life, but my life, because they're connected. You're my child. I love you. I'm proud of you. I believe in you. That is why we're having this conversation. I think you're smart, but I also know you're human. And all of us want exactly what we want. And we will find times when we're tempted to do things. By the way, you ought to have this conversation with your elderly parents too, because they're not exempt either, you know? Or the other thing that will happen is that they will feel threatened or afraid, and they will send things because they think they have no other alternative. As long as you don't send money or a photo, you still have control of your life. Once you engage with them, that control gets compromised. My name is Opal Singleton. The organization is millionkids.org. We are up against break time, so stay with us. We'll be right back. Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited, Crimes and Technology. I want to tell you about a book I wrote called Seduced, the Grooming of America's Teenagers. It's all about how predators access, groom, recruit, and exploit our young people using social media, online gaming, video chat rooms. Technology is changing at the speed of light, and we have to understand how to keep our kids safe from predators. So you can get this book by going to www.millionkids.org. It's $16. I'll sign it and I'll ship it to you personally. We hope that you will order this book, educate yourself about how to keep our kids safe in this day of changing technology. Join us each Saturday for our radio show at Exploited, Crimes and Technology at 3 o'clock on AM 590. The Answer.
Custom Service Systems, a proud supporter of Million Kids, is a family-owned and operated commercial cleaning company servicing the Inland Empire and surrounding areas since 1974. CSS takes pride in their ability to maintain the business facilities they serve and their long-lasting relationships with their valued clients. CSS provides a variety of cleaning systems customized to client needs, including deep cleaning and disinfectant to be COVID-19 compliant. From basic office cleaning to windows and floors, CSS will clean up your mess so you don't have to stress. Custom Service Systems cares about families and communities and wants to give back. Custom Service Systems are proud supporters of Million Kids to keep kids safe from predators. If you need the best cleaning services for your business or corporation, contact Custom Service Systems at cssclean.com. Again, cssclean.com, or call 951-781-9345. That's 951-781-9345. You will know you found the best. Custom Service Systems.
Hello, this is Opal Singleton of Exploited Crimes and Technology. Let me tell you about my friend Doris Anderson at Remax Realty in Upland. She is amazing. She's kind, she's patient, but she listens. And she's informed, and she will help you with your real estate transaction in a way that works for you. Doris, in full disclosure, often supports the work of Million Kids because she cares about young people. But she knows how to analyze a market, how to market a property, and how to find just the right transaction for both buyers and sellers. If you're looking to buy or sell real estate or invest in income property, contact Doris Anderson at Remax Realty 951-733-8899. That's 951-733-8899. 951-733-8899.
AM 590. The Answer.
Hello and welcome back to Exploited Crimes and Technology. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to listen to this. I know it is a hard conversation, especially on a great Saturday afternoon. I get it. But you are the leaders, and this is just starting to happen. And if I can educate you, and you can educate your kids and their friends and your elderly parents and other people, we can begin to change the world. And we need to change the world because this is happening at the speed of light. So one of the things that has become something that's very, very disturbing to all of us is that the young males have become the biggest victim of this. Now, first of all, I'm assuming that males more than females want to brag, if you will, but also they are the more likely to send something like this, and they are the more likely to get trapped. And the interesting part to me is, as we watch the latest types of sextortion, it is those most successful kids that nobody really ever gives a thought that they might become a victim. We're used to trying to protect the kids that are, runaway, homeless, pregnant kids and like that. These kids are very disciplined, very high achievers. Very successful, usually very popular and often very good looking. And they're raised in solid homes with solid values. And I listen to the parents as they're grieving the loss of their kids. And they're saying, he was 17 years old. He was 6'2". I quit checking his phone. We quit having those conversations because he looks like an adult to me. Listen, any adult can be tricked. We see romance scams where people literally give up $500,000 to someone they have never met that's on some offshore oil rig. And the rest of us are able to look at them and say, what the heck are you thinking? And that person is like, but they loved me. And if they loved me, it would be worth it. And it's difficult to understand exactly what is happening. The reason this is so important that I educate all of you is one of the things that I have learned as these overseas telemarketing companies began to target our kids. It's mostly in video game chat rooms, a lot of private chat rooms where they're talking to somebody and they're off guard. And what has happened is these telemarketing companies overseas that are run by agencies like cartels and organized crime, they bring in poor kids. They usually call them chatters. And the kids that are the chatters will go into video games and they're just shooting the breeze with the kid and they do what kids do and gets the kid kind of off mark, okay, where they're not thinking and suddenly they're like really gorgeous and they're really sweet and they're really wonderful and they're really attracted to them and, show me what you got kind of thing. And it's a moment that most people can only understand if you're a 15-year-old guy, okay? And what happens in those cases, the minute that they get that photo, it is very organized and professional. They have an entire group of hardcore people to blackmail. The chatter that made the initial connection is gone, okay? They take that photo and they take turns, and this kid has no idea that they're up against maybe 4, 5, 8, 10 really hardcore people that are going to change his life. I kind of think about it, our kids play on video games and they're very competitive and they know that the bad guy doesn't play fair. And I can't help but think that we need that kind of conversation with our kids, that if you're doing this online, you are walking into a trap. It's kind of like the mouse and the cheese on the mousetrap. It looks good, it's wonderful, but the minute you go in there, your life changes forever. And there must be some graphics to help our kids understand just how quickly their lives change once that photo goes out. That they're no longer dealing with a 14-year-old girl. They've walked into a room that is a war room of literally organized criminals who will never give you another breathing moment alone until you capitulate. and there is not enough to satisfy them. So that is the danger of where we're going. So it's all changed so much, it really is. It's a changing world out there, and we got to get ourselves ready. I don't care if you're grandma or grandpa or who you are. We're living in the real world, folks, and it is a world we no longer control, but we can control our own behaviors. We can decide we're going to shut that thing off. We can decide who we're going to talk to, and we can decide that we are not going to leave ourselves open to any kind of exploitation. We're going to use the device wisely, and we're going to teach the next generations to do that, because we are now connected to the entire world. And there's a lot of ways to use technology for good, that we can help each other. We can support GoFundMe things. We can fund digging a well in Kenya and talking to the folks while they dig that well. There are many positive ways to use technology. But before we ever put a person online, we need them to understand what this means, that this is not a game. This is not just a selfie. This is not a couple of texts, that you are on the World Wide Web, and the world can come into your life at any given minute, and you need to be prepared to understand who they are and how to protect yourself. This is not a game anymore where we all just go online and play games. This is serious business when we live in a world without borders and a home without walls. And that's exactly where we're at today. We need to understand what's at the heart of a relationship and how you validate what is real and what is fantasy, and that you never put yourself or your family in a compromising position. But if you find that you make a mistake, this is a big world, and it's going to take all of us to fix it. So please, let's talk about it together. I really think that's the important part, is that, number one, mom and dad and grandma and grandpa get educated. They understand, and then they have those real conversations with kids. We are far past that. You be careful on that thing now, because that thing is a global device that can connect you to the bad people of the world as well as the good people. There are many great ways to use technology. We have access to more information than any generation in all of history. We have access to more opportunities in any generation in history, more knowledge that is out there. So it is a device that can be used for good. But our kids need to understand the downside of that device, what it looks like, and how you can get yourself in trouble. And most important, how to protect yourself and your family so you won't get into trouble. That's why I appreciate each and every one of you. I appreciate you so much that you're willing to listen to this show. Many of you contact me. You can do that at Opal, OPAL, at millionkids.org. Opal at millionkids.org. I appreciate each and every one of you that listen to the show. I see you out in the public. You tell me what, and you'll say, what are we talking about this week? No, anyway. But you're great. You're like family to me because you care. If you're listening to this show, you care. And you care with all your heart, but you need the knowledge, you need the understanding of what is going on out there so that you can prepare the next generation to live in a world without borders safely. And that's really where we're at. The life has changed and it will continue to change. But we're strong people and we're leaders, and we're going to take this on in a way that we can prepare the next generation. I believe how we prepare this next generation of leaders to live in a world without borders will set the stage for generations to come. We live at one of the most unique times in all of history, and God has called you and me to be a leader, to help kids to understand the power of technology, the good of technology, and how to be able to teach others so that they won't become vulnerable to what is happening in the world. I appreciate you folks. I appreciate each and every one of you that donate to our company. It's a 501c3 public benefit organization. You can do that by sending a check online. We've got P.O. Box 7295 at Riverside 92513, or just go to millionkids.org/donate, and we will use that funding to educate kids and continue our project right now of making the videos to educate those kids so they can live online safely. Folks, put your arms around your family this week and let them know how proud you are of them and that you love them. We'll see you next Saturday at 3 o'clock on AM 590, The Answer.
This message is all about Million Kids, the organization that helps locate missing kids throughout Southern California and educates to keep kids safe from predators. Million Kids educates school administrators, teachers, parents, and teenagers how predators identify a potential victim and the methods they use to recruit innocent kids. BMW of Riverside is a proud supporter of Million Kids. Visit BMW of Riverside at the Adams Street exit off the 91 freeway or click bmwofriverside.com.